The history of construction is surprisingly hard to trace, partly because construction history overlaps with architecture, engineering, material science, agriculture, and numerous other fields, and partly because early humans built with stuff that, well, didn't last. Leaves, branches, animal hides, all very sustainable, and maybe there's something we could learn from that, but not so great for the archaeological record. Later we moved to clay, stone, timber, and eventually things like brick, concrete, steel, and plastics. But if you look at the Neolithic era, which is the final stage of the Stone Age, that's really the first era where we can see evidence of built structures clearly, and unfortunately, sometimes it feels like the industry never quite left. Because compared to other sectors such as manufacturing, aviation, even retail, construction has been slow to adopt new technology. Construction is one of the world's biggest industries, employing around 7% of the global workforce and accounting for trillions of pounds in output. But it also has one of the most perplexing productivity problems of any sector. Other industries have transformed themselves through digitization and automation, but construction not so much. In many digitalization rankings, construction sits at the bottom or very close to it. So why is that? Construction is one of the most fragmented industries on the planet. Let's take a cake, for example. On a typical project, you don't have just one company building the cake. You have someone designing it, someone writing the recipe, someone making the batter, someone else doing the icing, someone sprinkling the sprinkles, and of course, someone overseeing the oven. And halfway through baking, the client decides the icing should be blue instead of pink. So now the sprinkles need to change, but now the new sprinkles clash with the decorations, and suddenly you're remaking half the cake. You might ask, why doesn't just one company do all of this? And well, some do, but construction is expensive, technically complex, and extremely high risk. If something goes wrong, companies can go under, literally from just one or two bad projects. So companies split the work to spread the risk. Because construction is spread across so many small specialized firms, the industry is highly fragmented, and that fragmentation makes it harder to coordinate new technologies and scale digital tools across projects, slowing adoption compared with more integrated industries. Some people argue that real change won't happen until construction contracts change, because if everyone's terrified of going out of business, no one is going to take risks. Because of that fragmentation and risk, construction companies tend to operate on small profit margins. Small margins means very little budget for R&D, and without R&D, there's no meaningful innovation. So everyone sticks to what's tried and tested, because trying something new feels like gambling. Unlike cars, phones, or aircrafts, which can be mass-produced and improved over hundreds of thousands of iterations, construction projects are usually one-offs. Even buildings that look the same on the outside will need unique calculations because of different soil conditions, different planning constraints, different neighbours, different utility connections, different regulations. Yes, modular and prefab are growing fast, and we'll touch on that in a future video. But as a whole, construction has never had the repeatability of manufacturing, and repeatability is what drives rapid innovation. There's also a genuine human preference for variety. People don't want every neighborhood to look identical. One of the big critiques of suburban housing and city flat development is exactly that. Everything feels a bit samey. Construction has a workforce that skews older, and many are retiring. The industry is also heavily reliant on migrant labour, and political decisions around migration have reduced the available workforce in places like the UK. And massive generalisation coming, older workers on site often prefer working the way they historically have. Not always, but often. Meanwhile, younger talent isn't entering the industry in the numbers it used to. All of this adds up to the double challenge of a shrinking workforce and slower tech adoption. Making new technology work on a construction project is surprisingly complicated, even when people want to use it. Every client has different digital requirements. Every contractor uses different tools. Every software platform speaks a slightly different language. Even if a team wants to implement a new technology, the contract might prevent it, or the client may not allow it, or the software doesn't integrate with the other project systems, or the contract was written years before construction starts, and changing anything is painful and expensive. On top of that, new tech requires training time, and construction professionals are already stretched thin. So even when cost isn't the barrier, time often is. You'll see this in a lot of industry reports. People aren't saying tech is too expensive. They're saying we don't have the time, mandate, or interoperability to use it. Many firms know innovation is important, but their internal cultures don't always support it. Processes are outdated, built around decades-old workflows rather than modern ways of working. Technology infrastructure is often also fragmented, with legacy systems that don't communicate well and slow down any attempts at digital adoption. Decision-making can be slow, with multiple layers of approval and risk assessments that make even small changes feel impossible. And the industry, as mentioned before, is incredibly risk-averse. One failed project can sink a company. All of this creates a cycle where everyone is waiting for someone else to go first. The fragmentation reinforces the hesitation, slowing adoption even further. Here's the good news. Construction is actually at a turning point. VC funding in AEC tech has exploded, with around £40 billion being invested between 2020 and 2022, 85% more than the previous 3 years. Clients are changing. Data centers, life science labs, high-tech facilities. These clients come from fast-moving industries and expect high-tech delivery. Governments are pushing innovation because governments are the clients for most major infrastructure projects. And AI has got people panicking, but it's creating huge pressure to build faster and build smarter. The skills shortage is also forcing automation and digitalization, and sustainability requirements are accelerating innovation in materials, planning, and site operations. The construction technology market is forecast to almost double by 2030. The issue now isn't availability, it's adoption, integration, and training. And yes, we might be biased, but there are a lot of smart people doing genuinely awesome things. And if you want to meet some of them, come along to one of our meetups. So yes, construction has been slow to change, but the pressure, the money, and the need for innovation are all lining up at once. And that's why this moment feels different. In the next video, we're going to zoom out and talk about construction for non-construction people, breaking down the industry, the terminology, the sectors, and all the things you need to know.